It's time for the MotoAmerica AMA FIM North American Road Race Championship. This round is MotoAmerica Superbikes at New Jersey, here from Millville at New Jersey Motorsports Park for our final event of 2023. And Supersport is on deck, and the riders are getting ready to roll as we are expecting a 14-lap fun-fair event in Supersport. Welcome, everyone, to the broadcast. Welcome to the broadcast booth. I'm Greg White, standing alongside two-time national champ Jason Pridmore. Now, Jason, Xavi Flores has wrapped up this championship, but as of late, the hot hand has definitely been Tyler Scott.
Yeah, it has been, Greg, and he's won 4 out of the last 6 races, and a lot of those wins have come on the second day. Yesterday, he flipped the script, though, and he comes out here in the rain and wins race 1 here at Jersey. And again, today, it's going to be another one of those weird wet weather races, I think.
Let's take a look at race 1 highlights and show you how it unfolded yesterday.
Yeah, you're going to see right from the start here, there's a group of guys. Ty Scott leads the way down in there. Xavi Flores is second. He would slowly start to go back, but it was Josh Hayes, number 4, coming to the front and starting to get away from guys ever so slightly. As we look a little further back, Kayla Yakov on her Tyler's Kawasaki started moving through the field herself. At this point, I believe she was up to 4th or 5th place, but this is what kind of started to change the race. Josh Hayes goes down. Ty Scott and Mazziato are out in front, duking it out by themselves. This is going to be the last lap, and you can see Kayla Yakov was on the charge as she had ran 2 of the fastest laps of the race on the final 2, but it wasn't quite close enough, and Ty Scott wins over Anthony Mazziato.
So his 4th win of the season. He's done that in the last 6 races. He's got back-to-back wins. But Jason, I'm looking at Anthony Mazziato because for Maz, you know, he's 6th in the points, but it wasn't until this last race where he was able to put it on the podium. And he is one of our fastest young riders.
Yeah, I don't think 6th in the points is a real reflection of how good this young man is. And we've seen him come through the MotoAmerica classes. And, you know, he's going to be right back up at the front, hometown boy here. I know he wanted that win yesterday, but he did a really nice job getting it on the podium. And he's going to give it another shot today.
And let's get to the 3rd member of our broadcast team, Hannah Lopa, who is with Anthony Mazziato.
For Anthony Mazziato, this is his home race. He lives just up the road here in New Jersey, so it's safe to say he's got a lot of laps around this track, not necessarily in these conditions. And while it's a bit more mixed conditions today, different than yesterday, how confident are you after yesterday's result that you could potentially go for the win?
I'm really confident. I'm really excited for today's race. The little off I had this morning had me a little nervous. I wasn't going to make it back to the grid on time, but we got all checked and cleared, and we're ready to go today. Like I said, I had a couple things I put in my back pocket for today, and hopefully I can make it work.
Do you think your plans for next year are kind of dependent on your performance here this weekend?
Oh, for sure. You know, it's always how you end off the year is your best result. So I really hope we could put in a really good result today, and then maybe we can figure out what we're going to do for next year, because I'd love to continue doing this, and I'm having a really good time being back on a motorcycle.
Looking for a strong finish is Anthony Mazziato, another racer who's maybe surprised a lot of people, but after the conversation I had with her, I wasn't really surprised how well she did in the rain. The first ever female racer to make it onto the Supersport podium is none other than Kayla Yakov. We've seen her have success in the Junior Cup class and Twins, and finishing out the season on the Supersport machine. Kayla, after yesterday's performance, is there anything that you think that you could improve on or do better for today?
Yeah, I want to get off to a good start, be able to be up front with these guys early. Obviously, the conditions are drying out a little bit, so that'll be pretty interesting late race. But yeah, I just want to save the tire for the end and see what I can do.
You know, just based on your sighting lap out there, what were the conditions like?
You know, it's all damp out there. Not as many dry spots as I thought there would be after watching the Twins Cup race, but yeah, we'll see how it is. Just kind of look for the puddles, and there's still a couple of damp spots, so I'm glad we didn't go with a slick rear. So yeah, we're just going to keep the ball rolling, hopefully end off the year strong, and yeah, I'm excited.
Tires will certainly be a topic of conversation here. I'm curious to check in with Dunlop and see who is running what, guys.
Yeah, it's going to be a little bit weird because it is definitely not as soaked as it was yesterday, so it's becoming a more difficult decision. Because here at New Jersey Motorsports Park, Jason, there are cracks and sealers and ups and downs and all kinds of fun stuff.
There are, and you go down into turn 1, and turn 1 right now has a bit of a stream going across it. Up over top of turn 2. Turn 3 is going to be a little bit the same. It's just tricky conditions all the way down in through turn 4. We see a big stream going across turn 5 on the entry to there. And then, of course, by the time we get over to turn 10, a couple of spots in that area as well. The thing was, as you heard Kayla say, as you come out through those S's and onto the front straightaway, that's a lap here. But you heard Kayla say that during the Twins Cup race that we just had earlier, it actually started to dry. And then in between races, they had a little small cell went over the top of us and put some more rain on the racetrack. So that's why the field is going to be on, I believe, all rains. I think otherwise, Greg, there could have been a chance that some people could have taken chances here with tires.
Yeah, possibly what Kayla was intimating is obviously maybe a rain front with a slick rear. But what does this guy got to do? Xavi Flores, the national champ. His future uncertain, but he wants to end the season with a win.
Xavi and that Warhorse HSBK Ducati sporting some new colors here this weekend as well, that purple and white, as they've got a special sponsor from just north of here a little bit. And looking forward to what he's going to be able to do here. You know, the guy does so much endurance racing. He's seen all these different conditions, and you know, you'd normally think that he would be a real player here, but he's also riding a little injured, isn't he?
Yeah, he's had that big crash from the endurance race last weekend. Coming in here with the leg pretty banged up. Seeing him walk around the paddock, you can tell he's a little bit gimpy. I think the wet conditions is a little bit less physical, so you know maybe that can help. But the track being tricky the way it is and slick, and you know just not finding that confidence, and you're already injured. You don't want to make it worse.
Well, and the other question I have is when he races in Europe in the endurance stuff, and all season here, obviously, you know, he's been racing the Dunlop dry tire. In Europe, he races on a different tire. He probably has no laps on the Dunlop wet coming into this weekend, so that's got to be something that he's got to work through too, isn't it?
Yeah, the Dunlop wet, something he hasn't really been on before, and then also too a track like this it's different in the wet compared to a lot of the other tracks, and building that confidence and the trust in it, I think that's what he's been like. And when you see him out there on the bike, we've seen him on some wets at Barber, he looked pretty strong, but here it just doesn't look like he has found the comfort that he's looking for.
Yeah, and he is such a great rider, the real deal. There's no question about that. So kind of interesting here. And when you look at the championship right now, the top few spots in the championship are already locked in. So this one is all about ending the season with a win, having the honor of winning the last race of the year, and keeping in mind, as Roger has said a few times this weekend, it's contract time, and these guys want to be around another year, whether it's in this class or one higher. It's about to be decided here at New Jersey Motorsports Park.
MotoAmerica Supersport coverage is brought to you by Dunlop, the official tire of the MotoAmerica Championship Series, and by Geico Motorcycle. Visit geico.com to see how easy covering your ride can be.
Hello everyone and welcome back to New Jersey Motorsports Park. It is the final Supersport race of the season, and while the championship has been decided, all bets are off, especially in conditions like this. Now yesterday we saw a full wet scenario. Right now it's not currently raining. Conditions on the track are spotty at best. There are some lines starting to dry out from the previous races, but there is some standing water and water running across the track. Now when I checked in with our friends at Dunlop, they told me that the majority of the field, if not all of them, are on rain tires. But when it comes to dialing in your setup in a situation like this, there's more at stake than just the tires. Sometimes they want to soften the suspension a little bit. They make chassis changes, and certainly some of the electronic changes that they're able to make within those capabilities. Now, we're just going to have to wait and see what happens and who's going to win this race today.
Yeah, that really is it, Jason. And when you talk about those rain tires, when it dries out, not only do you need those rain tires to go the distance, but now with the deep grooves that they have, the tire gives you a much different feel than the slick tire is going to give you. So what do you do suspension-wise? Here's the radar and what's going on. Jay, you mentioned a quick cell had gone by right there. And so we're going to have to see what's going to happen here. The rain, or the race itself, is declared a wet race.
Yeah, as you see here, the starting grid, Ty Scott, Jake Lewis, and Josh Hayes on the front row. Mazziato, David Anthony, who I expect to be a little closer today in this race than Teague Hobbs, as well as Flores, Lamondre Jr., and Nassani. Then we have Silva, Hayden Schultz, and Carl Soltise. Kayla Yakov coming from row 5 with Owen Williams and Declan Van Rosmalen. Silva, Crossman, and LaRoche. Ullman, Silva, Murphy, and Zaragoza. And you know, Greg, the thing when you talk about this, and going back to Hannah's report, when you're on wets and you have a drying track, compromise is the biggest thing. Which rider can do their best knowing that they've got some softer settings on soft tires as the track dries? That's where the compromise comes into play, and you have to adapt to it. So being able to adapt in these kind of conditions as the track dries on wet tires is tricky. So, you know, you look at guys with experience, the Chavi Flores and Josh Hayes and some of those guys. Those are the guys that should go to the front in conditions like this.
Vision Wheel M4X Star Suzuki's Tyler Scott is our pole sitter. He's going to be trying to get in turn 1 first. He gets a good launch. Looks like Josh Hayes on the Squid Hunter Racing Yamaha R6 also got away decently with Jake Lewis on that Disrupt Racing bike. He's going to slot into third. But a good jackrabbit start for Tyler Scott.
Really good start. Best start I've seen him all year long. I mean, he literally had 5 bike lengths on everybody in the first 4 seconds of this race, like just gone. So that's what he needed to do. And you can see the riders, you'll be able to see from this view, the shiny spots on the track are the ones that guys get a little bit concerned about. They just went through another one there in 3C. But look at the guys doing the chasing. It's always Josh Hayes getting off to that good start on that Squid Hunter R6, like you said. A little bit further back there. Mazziato's back there too. You saw Kayla go through. She's going to be back there in what looks about 7th or 8th right now.
Yeah, so it is Josh Hayes in second with Mazziato. Looks like David Anthony in 4th spot. Yeah,
he's been fast all weekend. Dave Anthony has been really fast, and he has shown a lot of pace. Since he jumped on that GSXR 750 at Road America, I believe it was, he's had some really good sessions, some great practice sessions, some great qualifying sessions. And, you know, yesterday, it looked like he was going to be the guy that was going to really be able to fight for the podium. And Kayla was able to go through there. And you're looking now, he's got himself slotted in 4th place, right there behind Mazziato. You see Jake Lewis as well. And a little bit further behind them, Jarrett Nassani, but we've got about a 5-rider breakaway at the front right now.
Onto the front straightaway we go for the first time of 14. And it is Ty Scott who goes 143 flat. We have a rider down the 32.
That's Joe Lamandry.
Yeah, Joe Lamandry on the Michael Gilbert Racing GSXR 750. Second for him this weekend in a race. So you have Scott, Hayes, Mazziato, Anthony, Jake Lewis in 5th. Nassani, Jarrett Nassani, the 59 on the Altus Racing GSXR 750. Doing well right now in 6th place ahead of Kayla Yakov. Chavi Flores just behind Yakov, Carl Sotis, and Hayden Schultz.
Look at the drive that Josh gets up over the top of that little wheelie hill there, and he's going to be looking to try to get to the front here, and that's what Josh always likes to do. He's going to stand Ty Scott up as he goes through that little puddle. That's going to help Mazziato close up onto the back of these guys a little bit closer. But Josh Hayes doesn't want to mess around as Ty Scott's going to take a shot right back at him as they go down into turn 6.
There goes Hayes. Of course, you can't quite get that lean angle when you have these tires on it. Plus, it's this water streaking across the track and those puddles that are still there. You can see the shiny spots that Jason was talking about. Got to be careful on the throttle going over those.
Yeah, and they come up here into this turn 9-10 area. You're going to see 2 more of them. One on the entrance that Josh is going over right now. Then they'll let the bike swing out a little bit. Some people are going around this next patch that is right here. Some people are going through it. And you can see how sideways Josh got there. Even Dave Anthony, all of the riders going through. Now, where that becomes tricky, Greg, is as the track dries, your throttle hand's telling you, hey, it's starting to dry, let's get going. But those patches are still going to stay a little bit damp. So you got to be, they do become a bit treacherous.
Not a lot of spray on the front straightaway. You can see the riders trying to find some spots. The problem with cooling those tires down with the water is you don't want to get too deep in those puddles, Hannah.
For Tyler Scott this morning, he said he was really struggling to find the pace, and after that his confidence wasn't that high. He was excited for the race, but he knows it's going to be a battle on track and mentally. They did make some small changes to throttle mapping. He likes a really aggressive throttle, but he needs to balance that with smoothness in order to be consistent and strong in these conditions.
Yeah, the aggressive throttle is the way he likes to go, Jay, is when he gets to the apex, he wants to go 100% throttle.
Yeah.
And allow some of those electronics to help him out, but
these conditions are a little bit harder, and I think even on the 750, we saw him sideways an awful lot yesterday. So my thing, I'm going to be looking at to see if they've made some changes overnight to make it maybe to where it doesn't hit quite as hard as the throttle hand that he's giving it, Greg, in the sense that yesterday we saw that bike getting snapped around on him right when he's probably in the torque curve of that motorcycle. So let's see if it gets a little bit better for him today. There are places where he closes up and there are places where he loses, and generally that's the kind of stuff you see in these kind of conditions, in these kind of races.
139.693 for Josh Hayes. First rider into the 39s. We expect these lap times to continue to get quicker and quicker as the riders start to learn where the grip is and where they can really apply the throttle. To give you an idea, 139.6 versus a 123.7 in qualifying. So just about a 15, 16 second difference in these conditions versus dry conditions here at NJMP.
Yeah, it'll continue to get a little bit better, but like you say, like see how wet it is down when they come down here into turn one. That's going to help keep the tires a little bit cooler. The same three guys that we saw at the front yesterday are the same three guys again. Mazziato looks like he's getting more comfortable, which is good. I think the other thing to take into consideration is we forget Ty Scott's 17 years old.
Sure is.
And he's very accomplished at what he has done already. And he has gone head-to-head with Josh Hayes this year. We saw that at Brainerd. He's gone head-to-head with Xavi Flores at Coda. And he's managed to beat two guys that are very, very qualified and a lot of experience. Xavi Flores is on his way into the pits on the left-hand side of your screen. That's going to be, is that the first time we've seen Xavi not finish a race?
Mazziato, sorry, Jason. Yep. Mazziato into second place.
Wow.
After just setting the fastest lap of the race. So the New Jersey resident, the hometown favorite, the 23 of Mazziato, ends up taking over the spot in second. The Northeast Cycle Outlet Racing Yamaha R6. So now we have a couple of R6s and a GSX-R 750. And of these top three riders, Josh Hayes, not really sure what he's going to be up to next season, if he's coming back racing, and what the Squid Hunter team's going to do. Mazziato mentioned that he doesn't know what his future holds, but we do know that the Vision Wheel M4X Star Suzuki rider, the number 70, is buttoned up for next season. Same team, same class.
Yep, and that's a great move from Mazziato as he was able to go up underneath Ty Scott. He saw Josh Hayes pull that pass off earlier. So for Mazziato right now, you know, you say that about next year. This is a guy that should be in our series. He's pushing hard, Greg, and he wants to try to lead this race. You heard him say that at the beginning, that he feels like he has the opportunity here. So they're already catching up to slower traffic.
Getting out of the way is the 27 of Edgar Zaragoza. Out of Mexico, the Easy Racing machine. So Zaragoza not quite finding his rhythm or groove in these mixed conditions here at New Jersey Motorsports Park. About 9 3/4 laps to go for Josh Hayes, Anthony Mazziato on the 23, and Tyler Scott on the 70. Ty Scott starting to lose touch ever so slightly, and Mazziato with his problems late in the race, Jason, with a visor that he couldn't see out of. And these conditions, we're not seeing as much spray, but the one thing that feels different is it's much warmer today.
Yeah.
And it just feels humid, very humid.
Yeah.
And so you can see that Mazziato's got a lot of tape around his visor, and I think he's trying to keep that clean. And he mentioned in the post-race interview yesterday, he did the 23. Oh, Ty Scott with a problem.
Oh, man, I wonder what happened there.
Threw his hand up in the air.
The bike just stopped on him. So, oh, Mazziato, he's gotten close a couple times as he gets that bike sideways. I see Anthony getting very, very loose twice now that bike has snapped around on him. So
that's a caution sign.
Ty Scott, I see the black flag in the background as well. So
yeah, telling him to get off the racetrack immediately. That's going to move Jake Lewis if he can come around on this 5th lap. Jake Lewis would move himself up into the 3rd spot. There he is. There's the big boy Jake Lewis on the Disrupt Racing GSX-R 750. He has been a breath of fresh air, Jason, and really, if you consider the Supersport class, if you ever said Jake Lewis at his height and his size would be competitive in this class a couple of years ago, a lot of people thought, well, I don't really see how, but with the next generation rules and the bikes being balanced, it's a perfect platform for Jake Lewis.
Yeah, here's another look on the left-hand side of your screen. Mazziato gets on the throttle, and that bike snaps around. That is really close, Greg. That is another foot away from being able to not bring it back. It would flick him off the inside of the bike. So let's just keep an eye on that as he continues to push forward. Hayes, that time by with a 38.9. That was the fastest lap for Josh in the race. So 38.9, 38.8 the lap before for Mazziato, but that little slip up cost him a little bit of time. And so we're going to see if Mazziato, it's so hard to push in these conditions, especially when you know you're chasing a guy like Josh.
Yeah, it's one of those situations where as you learn the racetrack and you say, okay, from corner 2 to corner 6, I can actually go a lot quicker, but then by the time I get to 6, there's a puddle there. I've got to slow down, and so you got to be doing all these calculations. Looks like Ty Scott is back up and running, Jay.
Yeah, let's see. Where did he come across? He came across in 18th place. So, you know, Mazziato again out of the seat. So this is where, again, when we talked about earlier, you're trying to put input through the bike, and you got soft settings, and you're trying to get faster and faster. If you watch Josh Hayes, the way he just look at the way he moves on the bike, subtle, very, very subtle movements, very, very not really hanging off the bike a long way. He's going to be able to load that bike a lot better, I feel, for him, and that's just something that he's always done. He's always kept it very, very simple, and so that's going to make it to where his ride looks a little easier. Jake Lewis, as you say, goes 40.2, his fastest lap of the race. And he's got Dave Anthony and Kayla Yakov behind. Kayla almost matched Jake's best time there as they went across the line. But Lewis, at the moment, he's got about, what does he have? About 2-second lead over Dave Anthony. So remember, Greg, he took the place of Corey Ventura early in the year. Corey's continuing to rehab and get better. Jake Lewis has done a nice job, and to see him try to finish the season on the podium would be a nice result for him and that team.
Wrench Motorcycles rider David Anthony in 4th place right now with about 2 seconds adrift, but here comes the 19 behind him of Kayla Yakov, who last time by was half a second quicker. So here comes the Tytler Cycles Kawasaki rider Yakov.
And one of the things to think about is look how much better the conditions are right now than they were this time yesterday. It was absolutely pouring yesterday. Kayla went 40.5 in these conditions. She just went 40.3 in conditions that I think are a little bit better. So it shows how the pace that she had yesterday in full wets.
And Jason, for Kayla today, minor changes for some more front end field, and she's definitely got some confidence over those sealant patches. Setup was dialed for early laps early on in the race. We'll see how things kind of unfold these last laps, but she didn't really expect to be reeling in the leaders the way that she did yesterday, but she felt like she had pace no matter what the conditions were, so she's not really minding these mixed conditions too much.
Yeah, and by the way, if you're looking at the radiator, you're just seeing red tape. So that's just duct tape that teams will put on the radiator to actually, sometimes in these conditions, too much cooling can reduce the performance of the motor, so they put that duct tape on the radiator to kind of block some of the cooling fins. That's all you're seeing on Kayla's bike. No dramas there.
Yeah, to keep a little heat in that engine for her. So she's just closed up. She's closing up on the back. Back up to the front, though. We got Josh Hayes, 39.2 that last time by. So, you know, when you start to look at the lap times, Josh has gone 38.9. He goes 39.2. Now he's just put up a red first split, fast split in the first one. He opened up almost half a second just in that first split. So Josh is starting to feel a lot more comfortable and confident. Another thing that you're going to notice is yesterday, Greg, he had a full-on rain suit over the top of his suit. This is going to make him today feel a lot better with this, just having his leathers on today and getting rid of that rain suit. Makes it to where you feel like you can maneuver around on the bike so much better.
Safe to say he definitely has a little bit better range of motion. When I talked to him, he said he's not afraid to fall down trying to win this. If Maz is able to kind of close that gap, he's certainly prepared to go all in on that, as always. I mean, we expect nothing less from Josh Hayes. He also mentioned to me just, you know, being so comfortable in the unexpected conditions and things of that nature. But one of the things was that he doesn't have really a lot of experience riding around Maz, so that's a bit of a wild card for him if he is able to catch up to him.
That's a good report because, you know, think of all the guys Josh Hayes has raced against through his career. And I mean, there's people that have come along and been way out of the sport since that he's had to compete against. So he's continuously evaluating the talent that's around. He's continuously getting to watch what other guys are doing. And you can see this lap, Greg, he's pulled the pin, 38.4 to a 40.3 for Mazziato. So Mazziato is probably looking on his board and seeing plus 6.2 and saying, you know what, a double podium in my final race of the year for this team here at Jersey, home track, is not such a bad result, because Hayes now, when he comes back this next time, he's going to see almost a 4-second gap, and he'll start watching that pit board really closely with 6 laps to go, 5.5 laps to go.
So you can see Josh Hayes, all-time wins across all classes, is your leader. Did it this year, 87 over Miguel Duhamel, Matt Mladen, Cameron Bobier, who's resting comfortably on the couch after he had to cut his season short from injury. And of course, Jake Gagne on that list. It's still a possibility of adding one. All right, Jay, so we go back to the battle for 4th and 5th place. Kayla Yakov is just behind David Anthony. Last time by the start finish line, it was only 0.6 of a second, but there seems to be growing just a little bit of that gap between those two at the moment.
Yeah, let's look at the, this is the great thing you and I have, 27.4 to 27.8 in that first split. So Dave got 0.4 on her in that part. So the next split again, Dave Anthony is at 22.5, she's at 22.7. So he's just slowly starting to gap her ever so slightly on this race. So, on this lap rather. So Dave Anthony feeling pretty comfortable. He is about 5 seconds behind Jake Lewis. So we're pretty spread out in the top 5 right now of this race. Jarrett Nastaney still holding 6. Owen Williams doing a really nice job. 7th, Hayden Schultz in 8th. Bruno Silva, nice to see him back. And Carl Soltise round out your top 10.
Now we do know Kayla's strategy, Yakov on the 19 bike, and that was to kind of pace herself and save the tire for late in the race. So with a 14-lap race, we have 5 to go now. You might expect to see a charge from Kayla coming up in a lap or two to close the gap and try to run down Jake Lewis and get a spot on the podium. Josh Hayes continues to lead Anthony Mazziato by 4 seconds. Jake Lewis is back 6.6. Then David Anthony is 5 back from Jake Lewis. And then Kayla Yakov has drifted another 0.6 of a second to 1.2. Jared Nassani still having a great run in 6th place. Owen Williams up to 7th.
Yeah.
That's Owen Williams probably best place on track so far this season, having a good run. The Californian who's not used to riding in the rain. Then Hayden Schultz, Bruno Silva, and Carl Soltise. So look at Hayes, and of course if you watched the race yesterday, you know as Tyler Scott has moved his way up to 11th place, if you're keeping track, now up to 10th for Ty Scott, as you can see on the left part of your screen. And so Jay, the one thing is that normally when we watch Josh Hayes over his career in this position, I would never be nervous when he's leading, even in inclement conditions.
Yeah.
Never be holding my breath. But after what happened yesterday, are you?
No, not even in the slightest, because he sees now he's got a 4-second lead. And if you watched, even in the spot as we get a look at Ty Scott, who's probably as puzzled as we are right now by the small little problem that he must have had that cleared up. I got to think that's something electronics, I think, huh? Greg, it's got to be something electronic that probably just did something there. But when you start to look at this guy and the experience that he has, Josh Hayes, like I said, he's watching the pit board. He's seeing that his lead is expanded. He knows he's got 4 laps to go, and he's just hitting his marks. But more importantly, where he tipped off yesterday, the last lap that I saw him go through there, you could just see how careful he was being, just giving that just a little bit more respect, especially now that he knows he's got a little bit of a lead. And this guy, take nothing away from him. He has been riding amazing all weekend. He's had some really good races this year as well. So for Mazziato, this is going to be a very solid result. As you can see, Greg, it looks like it's getting sunny out there now. So that's going to be a good sign for some of our racers later on as it comes. As you see Jake Lewis now come through your picture. He in turn just ran the fastest first split of his race. He's got, what has he got, 7 seconds just about now, 6.5 seconds over Dave Anthony. So
this would be so great for the Disrupt Racing team as they participate in so many classes here in MotoAmerica. You know, from Stock 1000 where they won the championship with Hayden Gillum to Superbike to this class. And man, I'm going to tell you something. This would be another boost for Jake Lewis.
And let's hope that Jake Lewis can go into next year as he misses a gear, maybe there it looked like. Let's hope that Jake Lewis goes into the offseason with some potential places to find him a home next year, because, you know, Jake he's kind of a fill-in rider again this year. He got on a bagger at the beginning of the year, and that was going to be what he was going to ride all season long as Josh clicks off another lap. But for Jake Lewis, I'd really hope that he can have a good offseason, get himself nice and fit and ready for 2024.
As for this guy, I've asked him several times, what do you want to do? And the 48-year-old Josh Hayes says, I still want to race next year. I'm still feeling it, still feeling good.
They're still winning.
Well,
you know,
take it easy.
No, he won already this year, did he not?
Did. Yeah, no, yeah.
I ain't putting the curse on him. You know what I mean? He already won this year. So, you know, and right now he's just going to pick his way through some people here. And I always found it, you know, even talking, you know, with Josh, when he does things, the way he does things, you know, he loves to lead from the front. But when you lead from the front, sometimes when you have a bit of a lead, a big lead, Greg, you can, when you start seeing those back markers coming towards you, it gives you a little bit extra motivation.
Kayla Yakov's gotten around. David Anthony moving up into 4th place.
Look at her lap time, 40.5 last time through.
Yeah, so this is lap 3 to go. Talking about her strategy, about how that rear tire is going to feel. Now we'll see if she's got some flow in her. What's the difference between her and Jake Lewis, Jay? 7 seconds?
Yeah. Yep. She's got, she's
7 seconds, 3 laps to go. So the math is pretty simple.
Wow.
She's going to need to go a little over 2 seconds a lap faster than Jake Lewis if she's going to catch him and replicate her podium.
This might be a problem with Dave Anthony, because you see Kayla's behind him here.
Okay.
So did Dave run a little bit wide?
He did.
Yeah, he did. He ran a little bit wide. And so now let's see if Dave Anthony can chase Kayla back down and do something.
Hayes around Oman. Oman in 18th place. So now two to go. 5.3 second lead. Mazziato has already gone by your screen, and here comes Jake Lewis on the 85. And there's Yakov as Dave Anthony has a look behind him to see what's going on, trying to clear off his visor. So Yakov on that Tytler Cycles Kawasaki ZX6R. Having a good go, backing up her podium appearance yesterday in rain conditions to these inclement conditions. And basically here in MotoAmerica, we have 2 tire choices. There are slick tires, and they're exactly how they sound, or full rain tires. There's not an intermediate tire available in MotoAmerica competition. So what Kayla had talked about on the grid with Hannah Lopa, of course, was the possibility that her team was thinking rain front, slick rear. But it seems like she's made the right choice, Jay.
Yeah, absolutely. She's done a really nice job here, and again, another nice solid weekend on this Tytler's bike. It's like we said, Greg, it's the second weekend she's had on this motorcycle, and she's proven to be pretty adaptable to whatever it is she gets on. And this will be another nice result, as she just went her fastest lap of the race, the last lap, and she's the first 2 splits that she's had there, she's already on another faster lap, but she is 7.7 back, as Josh Hayes is going to be coming through here in a minute, and he's going to get to see this white flag.
Learning from yesterday's miscue for Josh Hayes. So white flag out, final lap of the season in Supersport. As Hayes bends it into turn number 1, you can still see a couple of those puddles. It's going to be very interesting talking to Hayes if he can make it this last lap to the finish line, how the tires held up. It kind of gets lighter and darker during the course of this race. And of course, the one thing that the cloud cover benefits the riders is if the sun out and the wind was blowing hard, this track would dry up really quickly. And that's not fun when you're on full rain tires. Josh Hayes getting ready to get after Jacob Crossman in 14th place on the Suzuki. So there goes the Squid Hunter Racing Yamaha R6 around the 68. I mean, what can you say, Jay? If there was anybody who would learn from their mistakes, and I was really surprised yesterday that he even made that mistake, honestly. But you knew talking to him yesterday, he understood. He took full responsibility for what happened many times over. And this is the net result.
That's why he's a champion, though. You know, he'll readily admit a mistake. He'll say, hey, I screwed up. And that's just part of it. I mean, sometimes you just got to put your hand up and go, I made a mistake. I did something wrong. And, you know, I thought what was even funnier is that he said, you know, everybody knows about this little patch here that he's getting ready to go over for his final time. Everybody knows about that. Look at him still shaking his head. You know, he's probably laughing about that. But here he comes. He's going to get win number 88, it looks like, as he comes through the last corner.
Josh Hayes onto the front straightaway. The 48-year-old from California has a long look over his shoulder and grabs another win, the final Supersport race of the season. And here comes Anthony Mazziato, a very mature ride from Mazziato in knowing what the limit was of his rear tire. And onto the front straightaway comes Jake Lewis, as Jake Lewis will get to stand on the podium again in his career. Oh, he's going to be happy. Kayla Yakov, 19.8 seconds behind your race leader and in 4th place ahead of David Anthony. Hayes, Mazziato, Jake Lewis. And here comes the number 70, Tyler Scott. Last time we saw him come by, he was in 9th place after dropping all the way out of the points. Was able to do some onboard surgery and figure out what was going on with his GSX-R 750. There's a rider down on the last lap.
There's a rider down there, yeah.
And if that was maybe Hayden Schultz.
I think it was Hayden Schultz. I think you're exactly right. So that's going to
get
get
out of 8th place for Schultz.
Yeah, Owen ends up finishing 7th. That's his personal best on the last one. Here comes Ty Scott. He's going to end up bumping up to 8th place as we see Hayden Schultz going down the board there. Bruno Silva 9th.
Josh Hayes, the fastest lap of the race on lap number 8, as you can see left part of your screen. A 1:38.493 for Hayes. As a masterful performance, even with Anthony Mazziato putting the pressure on him, Hayes was able to get around that last left-hand corner before the front straightaway. Shaking his head, but how do you like that, 48 years old?
That's pretty good.
Cannot stress enough that Josh always talks about go out in every session, in every condition.
Yeah,
and he's been doing it a long time, Jay. And we've seen riders that will be like, oh, it's going to rain this morning, but not rain the rest of the weekend. I'm not going out. You're looking at a rider who comes to the racetrack with knowledge, confidence, experience, and in these very tricky conditions, and it is tricky, that he goes out there and he knows what to expect. Keep in mind, he had one appearance in MotoGP in his career. And when he did it, he finished 7th in a MotoGP race in very similar conditions.
It's incredible, isn't it, when you think about the career that this guy's had, and the MotoGP ended up 7th. I mean, that's just, it's an insane stat. And, you know, the thing is that these kind of conditions, you're going to have to race in them all over the world. Doesn't matter where you are. If you go to any series around the world, you're going to have to learn to adapt to these races. And you know, the thing is there are schedules, and sometimes the way your schedule works out, you're going to end up having to run in these kind of conditions, and you better be ready for it. And the number 4, he's always ready for it. And I know the people that he coaches, he says, hey, why are you sitting here? Go put your leathers on. Let's go. Let's get out and ride and learn what this feels like. And that's what you have to do. And you can see here, 88 wins. I mean, it's incredible to see that tally go up and see if it happens again next year.
What's a shame is that Miguel Duhamel is not watching the program, because a race win ago for Josh Hayes, he probably put his chair through his television.
Yeah, probably lace the boots back up, as I say. With I'm sure Miguel probably would like to.
We're going to step away. We're going to come back to New Jersey Motorsports Park and talk to the number 4 about his 88th career victory.
Now, Roger, I've used the term before with Josh Hayes, absolutely evergreen, just continues to amaze and impress. But how about the ride by this guy, the number 23 of Anthony Mazziato, was right there dueling with Josh for a large chunk of it here, and then just realized that he didn't have anything for Josh at this point, that he was just said, I'm going to bring it home with a solid second. And Jake Lewis, a great podium.
Yeah, great podium for him. Been close this year, and also for that Disrupt Suzuki guys able to get a podium after, Supersport getting there this year, rider getting hurt, getting a fill-in guy, and able to get a podium. That's awesome for that team.
And look at that. You can see the smiles from Melissa and the team there as Josh extends his record. Here comes Mr. Mazziato. Down into the victory circle area. And there's Kayla coming up. What a ride from her again, 13th to 4th today.
Yeah, not a podium today, but just as impressive ride. Different conditions as yesterday, tricky, and 13th all the way to 4th is this really solid result for her.
Yeah, we're going to show you right here what happened to Mazziato this morning. And look at that off. And rode that the bars for a while before he came off on that. Boy, they just slide forever down there, and was able to rebound from that. The team, that Northeast Cycle Outlet team, doing a great job getting that bike back in run order, and Maz got out there, and what a run he gave it.
Yeah, he mentioned it right before the race, was a little worried that maybe they wasn't able to get that bike fixed. So hats off to the crew. I mean, you talk about some pressure in between the warm-up and the race, trying to rebuild a bike with all that mud and stuff. And also for Anthony, able to get out there and not let that mistake ruin the rest of his day, put it behind him, and really smart ride for him. He didn't have the pace to go with Josh, and he didn't force himself into a mistake.
And, you can tell he's a local guy because it looks like half the paddock wants to hug him there. He's got a lot of fans here. And there's Jake, the tall man, riding a fast Supersport bike and putting it up on the podium. Just really, I think, an interesting story what's unfolding. Hopefully that'll lead to some special stuff for him next year. But time to hear from our podium.
We're back here at New Jersey Motorsports Park in Millville, New Jersey, as number 4 Josh Hayes, Swift Hunter Racing Yamaha R6 rider, is greeted by his team and his wife. Let's take a look at those final results. 5.7 seconds. Cannot stress, I think, the mature ride from Mazziato to bring it home over Jake Lewis. Kayla Yakov in 4th, just ahead of David Anthony. Jared Nassani, great 6th place for him. Owen Williams, his best in Supersport. Ty Scott and Bruno Silva. Let's get right down to Hannah, who has our winner.
An astounding 88th career victory for Josh Hayes, and ending the season on such a high note. Josh, after a day like yesterday, how much sweeter is this victory?
This is sweet relief is what it is, man. After screwing the pooch yesterday, I'm glad to be able to turn it around and repay my crew with some, good fortune in the season on a win. And oh man, it's pretty special. A big thank you. I tore this thing up yesterday. My guys gave me a better bike today. We made some improvements, and the race was a difficult one. We had to make some really hard decisions before the race started, and I think we came up with the right combination, and the track was changing just enough, but I rode hard all the way to the end because I was nervous. I knew things can change quickly in conditions like that. One little mistake, or they realize a piece of track's better than they thought, and they could really pick up the pace. So I tried to stay diligent, stay riding hard, stay focused, and I'm glad it worked. And it's fun to see some new faces up on the podium with Maz and Jake, and 2 Yamahas on the podium for Supersport. I'm pretty pumped about that.
I'm sure there's a lot up in the air right now, nothing set in stone yet for next season, but in a perfect world, what does the future of racing look like for Josh Hayes?
That's a good question. I sure love this stuff, so hopefully maybe this little feather in the cap here will help motivate them to want to do it some more next year. But I'm having so much fun. I feel like I'm riding well, and I mean, everybody says the old guy, but I still love this stuff, man. So if I can keep racing, I'll still be here.
Sounds like a great plan. Josh Hayes, today's race winner. 2nd place in his 2nd podium of the weekend. Local Anthony Mazziato. Incredible performance by you this weekend. How important was it for you to perform well as far as your plans for the future go?
The race was really difficult, and don't let this guy fool you. He's riding fantastic for his age. He's not going anywhere. Man, that was just such a fucking great race. I rode my butt off, man. I had so many moments. The track was drying. My tire was definitely raising in pressure, and I was losing grip, but I just kept my head down and trying to chase after that guy. He's a real awesome man. So I just can't thank my team enough. The Northeast Cycle Outlet, Geoscape Solar, all the boys for coming out, our AGV, Alpha Omega, fucking, oh my God. Ryan the Barber, Hustle Hard. This is amazing, man. Like, this one felt really good.
Now we see the duct tape on the helmet. We know you had a problem with the visor fogging up yesterday. How is visibility, especially with much less precipitation out there?
I got this thing hooked up today, a whole bunch of tape, Jackson Blackman hooking me up with the nose guard. It was just, everything was working good today, and I'm just so thankful to be able to do this for my team and everybody that came to support me, and it's been a great weekend.
Congratulations, Anthony Mazziato, whatever it takes, right, guys? Rounding out our podium, Jake Lewis, who was really supposed to be a fill-in ride, but a 3rd place finish on the season for you on this bike. What were your expectations, when you took over this role?
Yeah, I mean, obviously I didn't know I was going to fill in for the full year, but it's nice to finish the year on the podium. I've been trying all year, been 4th, 6th, a lot, that's been the joke. But yesterday's ride was pretty embarrassing, honestly. I had a little bit of a vision issues, and we had a little bit of issues, and I got so much shit for Kayla just blowing by me on the outside, and she's so fast in the wet, so hats off to her on her ride yesterday. But today, the pace at the beginning of the race, those 2 guys were hauling ass, and then especially Tyler, it's unfortunate he had the problem with the bike, but I took advantage of that and bring it home in 3rd. So a big thank you to the whole Disrupt Racing team and the whole crew, Josh, Mark, Jesse, Jose, Sammy, everyone on the team, worked hard, and it's nice to reward them with a podium to finish off the year. And a big thank you to Forest R Leathers, Bell Helmets, Alpha Boots and Gloves, my girlfriend watching back home, and all my family who supports me. Thank you very much.
Now the Supersport season is done for you for the year, but the work is not done for you for the rest of the day. How crucial was it to have those laps and kind of check out the conditions ahead of the baggers race later?
Yeah, it's going to be tricky. The track was drying up a lot in that race, but there's so many streams here. It's been raining here the past 2 days, so we still have like an hour and a half till the bagger race, so it's going to be tricky. I'd love to finish on the bikes. The championship's still alive, and I want Hayden to bring it home for the Kentucky boys. So sit back and watch the action, and watch the big Harley Davidsons go around here in a little while.
We are looking forward to it, and guys, the rain is certainly holding off for now at least.
Yeah, it is, and it's kind of because when you think about it, with some races we have coming up, I'm almost thinking to myself, let's just go ahead and let these skies open up so these riders have a good idea, because I don't think with the streams running across that, even with a couple of races, we got Medallia Superbike on deck and Mission King of the Baggers coming up, that's full slicks are going to be the most comfortable thing to be on.
Yeah, it's the worst feeling right now when you're in the paddock trying to decide. My phone's been blowing up this morning, all morning, thinking what tires, and I can see the same thing everybody else can see from TV. It's going to be dry. You know, the Superbike race coming up soon, and then after that, the Baggers and the big championship that we have going on with that, the last race of the season. What a way to end the year. And, you know, see Josh Hayes get another win today is amazing as well, and it's a good weekend to be at MotoAmerica.
The 24-year-old ×2 able to win another race, and we'll continue our coverage. Supersport, final race of the season here in 2023 from NJMP after this.
Podium celebrations beginning here. Jake Lewis up onto the box, and you could hear he was pretty elated about that. Not knowing what he was going to be doing for the entire season here, ends up running almost full season in 2 classes and finishes one of them up on the podium. And Mazziato, you could just hear how much this weekend has meant to him to have this kind of success here. And just a really savvy ride today when he realized that that guy right there, all that experience was just going to be a little bit too much here in these conditions. Maz brought it home with a solid second. But what do you say? 88 wins now. Just continues to reset his own records here. He is a very special. Whoops. All right. Not so good with trophies, but really good on the bike.
All that practice he's had with the trophies, you figure he'd have it down.
Exactly. He was, I think he was trying to find that little grab in the back, and it got away from him here. So, wow, what a year for this guy here, Josh Hayes, 88 wins.
MotoAmerica Supersport coverage is brought to you by Dunlop, the official tire of the MotoAmerica Championship Series. And by Geico Motorcycle. Visit geico.com to see how easy covering your ride can be.
We're back here at New Jersey Motorsports Park. You can see that cloud cover, and the sun is trying its darndest to poke through. But Hannah's still down there on the hustle, and she's with our 4th place rider.
A fantastic follow-up from her 3rd place finish yesterday. Kayla Yakov, 4th on the day. How important was this weekend for you, just in terms of figuring out what you're going to do for the future of your racing career?
Yeah, I definitely learned a lot. I mean, the last 2 weekends have honestly been a blessing, and it was a hard decision to move up to the Supersport category, but I'm glad we made that jump. And yeah, I'm super stoked to be up here. You know, coming only my 3rd race on a podium position was pretty cool, and then the next day following up with a 4th place, almost getting there. So yeah, we learned a lot, and learned how valuable qualifying is, especially on these bikes. So we're going to keep improving, and hopefully next year find myself on a full ride for Supersport.
What can you tell us about the conditions out there today? Obviously, it was quite a bit different than yesterday, but it seemed like you still managed it very well.
Yeah, the conditions were definitely a bit different today. It was a bit drier, but the pedals were still there. We went with a harder option tire, which probably wasn't the best bet for this kind of race, but you know, we did the best we could. The conditions still tricky today, and I'm glad to be up here in the top 5.
You have not seen the last of Kayla Yakov, guys.
Oh yeah, without question. I think Supersport is the category for the 16-year-old moving forward.
Yeah, and I think the harder option that she talked about was probably in anticipation that the track was going to dry out a little bit more, and you know, shortening that race just a little bit probably had something to do with that as well.
Let's go back and take a look at the highlights from race number 2. Jason Pridmore, this is your time to shine.
Yeah, you see Ty Scott, look at that start. I mean, if we were drag racing today, he had everybody smoked as far as that goes. But unfortunately, we'd see Ty Scott drop back. Not before Josh Hayes made that move, though, in the turn 5. He gets past. Ty Scott fired back immediately. Josh Hayes went right back underneath him, and you see Mazziato closing up, and he ended up doing the same thing to Ty Scott a lap later. Now, this is Mazziato getting all kinds of out of shape. Ty Scott, at this point, he'd already pulled off. He did get that bike going and get started again. I believe he ended up 9th. Jake Lewis, Dave Anthony, and Kayla Yakov within the 3 that we kept our eye on to see who was going to snag that podium. It would eventually go to Jake Lewis. As you see, Kayla gets by Dave Anthony, who ran a little bit wide there in turn 1. This guy came all the way through those last S's, had a look over his shoulder. That's win number 88 for Josh Hayes.
Unbelievable race win for Hayes and a masterful performance in the mixed conditions. Another look at the results as Hayes, Mazziato, Lewis, and then Yakov. David Anthony just so close, and I think maybe running into some tire issues there at the end of the race. A great race for Jared Nassani, and Owen Williams, his best in Supersport of the season. Let's get down to Hannah, who has our #1 plate for next season, Xavi Forés.
Bill Cumbo presenting the plate on behalf of AMA-FIM North America to our Supersport champion, Xavi Forés, for 2023. Big congratulations to Xavi. An absolutely incredible season all around for you. What are your thoughts for looking back on the entirety of his season?
Yeah, for sure. As I mentioned previously, it was an amazing season for me, especially winning 8 races in a row. It was something unexpected for me. We did a good job. All the team, all Ducati involved on this project was pushing so hard for me to win this title. So really happy and looking forward to next season and what it's going to bring it to me.
Anything set in stone yet? What are your plans for next season, or what's the overall goal for you?
Well, my target is to stay here on the championship. I am enjoying my time here. The natural step for me would be to jump on the Superbike, but I have to be realistic. There is not so many places available. I'm trying to work myself on it, but maybe in the next weeks it will be something working out.
Now, I hear you're a pretty big fan of the Mission King of the Baggers class. Any chance we'll see you on a bagger someday?
Well, yeah, I was following the series for a while, and I'm enjoying, especially when they are faster than me on the Supersport. I say, man, they are fast. So, yeah, maybe in the future I can think about it.
All right, Xavi Forés, the future is bright no matter where he lands.
Yeah, without question. Can you imagine getting him to do double duty in a season? Medallia Superbike and Mission King of the Baggers. That would be something else. And, of course, he wrapped up the championship a while ago. But for Xavi Forés, he ends up 364 points in total for the season, ahead of Ty Scott. And Josh Hayes ends up in 3rd as Mesa's on a Superbike. And Teague Hobbs, boy, there's a name and a rider that the teams have got to be looking at as well for the next season. He's had quite a season. Not the greatest here at New Jersey Motorsports Park, but this is really weird conditions.
I loved watching Teague all year long from Daytona on. Teague Hobbs definitely deserves a shot and a seat in our Supersport class again.
So Xavi Forés getting his little FIM AMA North American plaque, being congratulated by some of the fans, and you can see that he's gingerly walking around, and part of the results or lack of there for him this weekend without question was the fact that he races the FIM World Endurance on a full Ducati V4R and had a big high side and landed on his feet. So definitely going to enjoy some of at least the off season for MotoAmerica.
Yeah,
I don't know if there's any FIM stuff left.
Get those ankles rested.
Yeah. So Xavi Forés, #1 plate. Will he run it next season? Will he be back? We're not really sure. But you want to keep an eye on MotoAmerica.com for all the latest information on what's going on with the season, silly season, and all the stuff that's coming up, including, we hear, the 2024 calendar will be released soon. For Hannah and Jason, I'm Greg. Thanks so much for checking out Supersport all season long. We certainly hope you enjoyed our coverage. We enjoyed having you here. See you next year.